वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Since the daylight saving time ended in the Western Hemisphere, while it is the same timing in the West for everybody in India, instead of 7 a.m., today the class starts at 8 a.m. IST. I hope everybody has taken note of it now. I hope they will know it for the Friday Upanishad class also. With this, let's get down to the study of the Bhagavad Geetā. We dwelt quite a bit on that significant word in the 17th shloka of chapter 2, aprameya, unknowable, and how we had to go into quite a lot of details was Adi Shankara over there raises the question of in what exact way the scriptures bring about the so-called knowledge of the self. In 2 sentences, he clarified that the Atma is ever known. All that the Shastras do is eliminate certain false identifications. And by eliminating those superimposition of attributes which really do not belong to our existence, the Sanskrit words used were atad dharma adhyaropana nivarana. Tad dharma is what truly belongs to us. Atad dharma is attributes that do not belong to us. In the present context of this war, death doesn't belong to the soul at all. The soul does not die. And there is a belief in everybody, I'm going to die. This enemy will die. That uncle will die. And so on. Arjuna was trembling because of that belief. So that is atad dharma. Lastly, to explain this word atad dharma, being hot is tat dharma for agni, fire. And being cold is for fire, atad dharma. If somebody imagines fire to be cold, that is false imagination. Therefore, such false notions about our true nature need to be eliminated. Thereafter, in the 18th verse, we saw Sri Krishna summarizing the couple of teachings he had already given. While all the bodies, dehaha, have an end, antavantaha, the shariri, the indwelling spirit, the pure self, has no end. It is anashi, and aprameya. And at the end of it, this Aprameya came in 18 itself, not in 17. At the end of it, we said, drawing from Shānkara Bhāshya, this Yudhyasva fight is couched in specific words for Arjuna, but as far as we are concerned, we have to take that instruction not in specific words of fight, but in the general way of do your duty. Now we enter the 19th shloka. There are a couple of um, introductory words on the part of Bhashyakara. Shoka mohadi sansara karana nivrityartam Gita Shastram. These are crisp expressions which touch upon the important essence of what this scripture is all about. Gita Shastram, this great scripture of Bhagavad Gita, Nivrityartham, is meant for removal of the very karana, the root causes of shoka and moha. In fact, shoka and moha are the sansara. Sansara here means worldly existence, this egoistic existence of ours. And it is marked by grief as well as delusion. Gita Shastra is Nivrityartham. It is Nivartaka, and the very next word says Na Pravartaka. Gita Shastra, when you go into the depth of it, is not about making us do anything or bringing about something which is not in us. Those are all right for beginners, saying these shastras give to us this, give to us that, shastras or guru or God, all these three most sacred components of the tradition, scripture, teacher, and God. They are supposed to give us bhukti, give us all our well being. If we want wealth, we get wealth from them. If we want health, we get health from them. So, the sense of receiving lots of things, and then, yes, they help us get rid of suffering, they take away disease, etc. This is all right on the plane of dharma, which is a relative truth. On the higher level, as we fine tune, as we go for precision, we are ever full, ever complete, we are perfectly all right. So we don't have to receive anything on that higher plane of understanding. And on that higher plane, all that the Gita Shastra does is remove the false identification with this personality. This personality needs wealth. The personality needs maybe progeny. The personality needs a promotion, a million things the personality needs. And are we this personality? Are we this body and mind? That false notion is to be removed. Nivrityartam na pravartakam iti etasya artasya sakshi bhute richau. Rik, richau, richaha. Richau means two mantras which, as per some metrical consideration, are called Rik. The two mantras being given by Sri Krishna here in the Gita are from Yajurveda. We have Kathopanishad in the Krishna Yajurveda, and both the mantras are from Yajurveda. Some of you may wonder, why are they then called Richau? The word Ruk doesn't have to mean a Rigveda mantra. Ruk, Richau, Richaha. Singular is Ruk. Two of them is Richau. The Ruk is a word for mantras in any of the four Vedas having a certain metrical construction. So, two mantras, so you just take them as meaning mantra. Two mantras from Katopanishad, which are Sakshi Bhute, that means which are evidence, which are what, what would make us say, yes, this indeed is the purpose of Gita. The support is obtained from Katopanishad. Aninaya Bhagavan. Anayati means brings. And one of the forms of past tense is Aninaya. He brought them. Brought two mantras. Yattu manyase yuddhe bhishmadayaha maya hanyante. Arjuna thinks, oh my God, in this battle, great, very senior, elderly people like Bhishma and Drona, maya hanyante, will be killed by me. Ahameva tesham hanta. I become their killer. Iti esha buddhihi mrisha eva. That is baseless. That is within the ambit of illusion or spiritual ignorance. So we have in the Gita, mantra 19 and 20, the sequence in which these two appear in the Katopanishad is reverse. What is 19 here is 1 to 19 there, and what is 20 here is 1 to 18. The sequence is reverse. Here it is 19 and 20, over there it is 19 and 18. That's all right. What does this 19th mantra in the Kathopanishad and 19th shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, what does it say? Very poetic indeed. Ya enam vetti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanitaha nayam hanti na hanyate. This is, as I said, same shloka number in Gita and mantra number in Kathopanishad, and the next one precedes in the Kathopanishad the present mantra. Here it is what succeeds. All right. Yaha, whoever thinks that the pure self in us is a killer, enam hantaram manyate. Hanta is the killer. Hanta, hantarav, hantaraha, hantaram as object. They think of this as a killer, and some think that the self can be killed. So, grammatically, or in another manner of saying, to think of the pure self, the Shuddha Atma, not the ego, not even the Sukshma Sharira, not even the Jivatma, which takes next body, but the pure self, which is Asansari Atma. The Atma that takes birth after birth, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, we have clarified, is Sansari Atma. Sansara is that transmigration. It is Jivatma. But the Vedanta talks about a level deeper. For Samsari Atma is relatively a greater truth than this individuality perceived here. But that samsari atma going from one life to another is also an illusion. It's false. You scratch the surface, go deeper, you find you are actually the immutable, changeless, pure self. The pure self, as the shloka here says, cannot be taken either as the killer or as the one to be killed. In other words, neither the subject nor the object. In the simplest sentences involving a certain action, there is someone who acts and there is someone or something acted upon. If we say Krishna eats a mango, Krishna is the subject, mango is the object. All of us have done enough exercises while learning our languages, how to change from active voice to passive voice. Like it was, there is a joke that the teacher asks the class, what is the passive voice of I made a mistake? I, the subject, made a mistake. Mistake is the object. And a student got up and said, I was made by mistake. That is also passive voice, but that totally changes the meaning of the sentence. So I made a mistake was made by me. So we have all these exercises. So does the self kill? Does the self get killed? Both of those notions are false. Whoever thinks this way and whoever thinks the other way, both ubhav, both of them, na vijanitaha. They don't know. Na ayam hanti, na hanyate. Once more, like the word yudhyasva, which was couched in the specific language of battlefield, here too, to kill or to get killed are very specific to the battle scenario. In the case of life in general, any action and any way of being acted upon. I dismiss somebody junior to me, or I get dismissed, I get fired by the senior who has that power. A certain person gets elected as the President of the United States, and people elect him. So, to elect or to get elected, to eat or to be eaten, countless activities have this either being the subject, being the agent, or being the object to be acted upon by something. Both do not happen to the pure self. Adi Shankara gives a brief explanation here. Ya enam iti. Yaha, whoever, you and me, enam prakritam dehinam. Prakrita means the one in the present context. Prakrita is not anything to do with Prakriti here. Prakrita is presently certain discussion is going on about the pure self. The pure self, asamsari atma, if somebody imagines it, vetti vijanati hantaram, hanana kriyayaha kartaram. Likewise, yascha enam anyaha, another person has the false notion that the pure self can be the object of killing. Deha hananena hatahaham iti hanana kriyayaha karma bhutam. Shankaracharya uses the two grammar words kartru and karma. If I write a letter, I am the karta. Lekhana karta, I am the writer. And that letter, patram, is the karma. What did I write? I wrote a letter. That should suffice. We gave many examples. The pure self is neither the subject, karta, nor the object, karma. Tau ubhau na vijanitaha. These two camps of people who make the self a doer or an object. They don't know. Na jnatavantau, a synonym. Tesham or tayoho na jnanam asti. Avivekena, because of lack of viveka. Viveka is to clearly see, clearly distinguish. You are looking at the sky and it seems the moon is moving. But if you have viveka, you know that the moon is not moving, it's the clouds that are moving. If you know clearly clouds are moving, the moon is not moving, then in that context you have the necessary viveka. In the case of self-knowledge, if someone were to ask, you are all studying Atmajnana, what is it? Tell me in one sentence. You can say this. In one sentence, it is this. The Atma is not the agent of any action, nor is it the object of any action. To mix it up with the personality, which becomes the actor or something acted upon, is aviveka. Atmanam na jnatavantau avivekena. Hanta aham. I am a killer. Hataha asmi aham. I am killed. Iti deha hananena. We are referring to the matter as personality. Acharya Shankara explicitly uses the word deha. The body being killed, deha hananena, atmanam aham pratyaya vishayam yau vijanitaha. Yau is the dual of yaha, yaha, yau, ye. These two camps, these two kinds of people misunderstand the self to be killed or the self to be the killer. Na vijanitaha. Atmaswarupa anabhijnau. Abhijna means knower. Anabhijna. Anabhigya, as some people pronounce. Anabhigya or anabhijna. Anabhijnau. They don't know. Those who say how fast the moon is moving tonight, they don't know. The moon is not moving. It is the clouds which are moving. There is no water. There is only an optic illusion. There is no ghost on the post, as Swami Chinmayananji modified the simple metaphor in the Vedanta, a stump of a tree seeming or appearing to be a man. For a little more rhyme, Swamiji made it a post, a signpost looking like a ghost. The ghost on the post is false. There is no ghost. Therefore, rather than going just more and more into the technicalities, if you pause and think of what is the Vedanta sadhana, in the light of all this, what are we to do? All the time we need to question our doership. For transaction, we do whatever best is possible. Somebody asks for a glass of water, and don't just keep wondering, can I ever give a glass of water? Because as the pure self, I cannot do anything at all. That person is thirsty. That's where common sense is required. You give that person a glass of water, but then the Vedanta comes in here. If the slightest trace of pride comes in you, rises in you, even for a glass of water, he depends on me. You see that? They depend on me. I am the big person on whom everybody depends. That ego should not arise. Therefore, in Bhakti Bhasha, in the language of devotion, the sadhaka says, I did not do anything. That person was thirsty. Krishna made me give a glass of water to him. All credit goes to Krishna. Somebody was sick and I brought medicine for her. No pride in me. Krishna brought medicine for her. I was just an instrument, right? So, this absence of doership never gets translated to messing up the transactional matters. It is in one's heart of hearts, one knows I am not the giver, nor am I the receiver. Sometimes some of us have the problem. Even if we receive a little help from somebody, we feel so uncomfortable. I am not used to taking help. I only give help. Ah, what is that? In life, sometimes you have to give help, sometimes you should receive help. It's both a problem, both ways it's a problem. If you have pride when you give and you feel low when you receive. In a sense, that is how we have been trained. Our parents would have, in early childhood, said to us, don't take from everybody. Sometime back, a little child had come here with young parents. They had I had invited them, and for that child, I had kept some sweets, some chocolates, candies. As soon as I showed that box of candies, the child said, oh, I want. 5-year-old boy. And I said, I brought this for you only, beta. But the mother started browbeating him. Bad manners. Whenever you see some sweets, you ask for it. Like that. And the boy also got a bit frightened. So the parents tell a child, wherever you go, don't ask for anything attractive, be content, etc. So that gets into us. Why childhood? Later on also, on a certain level, it is considered swabhimana. It's considered certain self-esteem, not to beg, not to always depend on others, stand on your feet and so on. So we need to put things in their proper place. Whether it is simple self-esteem or ill-placed arrogance, some kind of notion that I never take anything from anybody. Even if God were to come and ask me, what do you want? I would say to God, what do you want? That is madness. Anybody, even the richest, the most powerful people, have to receive at times, but at the right time. Of course, that human value that we should try to give and we should not generally be in such a condition asking people for help, etc. It has its own relevance. One has to distinguish. The truth here is the Atma neither gives nor receives, but on the personality level, depending on the context, whatever is appropriate. Sri Krishna himself played the role of a charioteer. It is said in the Mahabharata every evening, even as other soldiers, other warriors, other heroes would quickly have a meal and then take rest, Sri Krishna would work at the stables, cleaning, washing, taking care of the horses, and some more work like an ordinary servant. He was most wonderful. He had that humility. After all, he had highest Brahmajnana. There was no time when Sri Krishna did not have Brahmajnana. He is Ishvara himself. Yasmat na ayam atma hanti na hanana kriyayaha karta bhavati na hanyate na cha karma bhavati. Neither the karta, the subject, nor the karma, the object. Avikriyatvat, because The pure self is without any vikara. Elsewhere the word vikara comes. Here it is vikriya. They are synonyms. Vikara or vikriya in this context is any modification. I am saying in this context because some places the word vikara is used for some undesirable change, like distortion, perversion. That is in some context. Just as a word like vasana, in some contexts, just the word vasana can mean bad smell. But basically, vasana is smell. Suvasana is good smell. Durvasana is bad smell. So, vikriya or vikara, like kama, krodha, etc., are called manovikaras. We want to remain the same, balanced mind. But then lust or greed arise. They are called vikara. But here in this context, good or bad, any change is vikara, vikriya. And the Atma is avikriya. Atma being avikriya is its avikriyatva. Somebody's hair has gone white, and that whiteness is shuklatva. Just like that, this expression, this kind of an adjective made into a noun by adding tva, avikriya, avikriyatva, and then taking it to the fifth case, avikriyatvat, is very common in the bhashyas because of it being changeless. There was a photograph of somebody, and that person is not bald at all, but in the photograph he looks bald. We were surprised. How come this 36-year-old person looks bald here? Because he had jet black hair and he was standing against a jet black wall. So the hair and the wall were of the same color. Therefore, he was looking bald, as though there was no hair. So if somebody were to ask, why is it so? We say, Tasya Keshaha Krishnaha. Krishna means black. And Tasya Keshasya Krishnatvat. Because of his hair being black, and that Bhittehe api Krishnatvat. Bhitti, the wall behind also is black, so the black and black merged. And the photograph, maybe the camera was not all that good, resolution was poor. So, avikriyatvat, this particular avikriyatva, this changelessness is elaborated in the mantra, which in Kathopanishad is one behind the previous mantra, one that is chapter 1, 2, Valli 2, and 18, mantra 18. In the Gita, we don't call them mantras, they are shlokas. The famous shloka, one of the most quoted shlokas from Gita, Najayate mriyate va kadachit Nayam bhutva abhavita vana bhuyah ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. By the way, in the earlier shloka, we have slight difference in the Kathopanishad mantra. Not much really. The Kathopanishad mantra goes, Hanta chen manyate hantum. I am talking of verse number 19. The corresponding mantra in Kathopanishad Hanta chen manyate hantum, hatas chen manyate hatam. The first half. The second half is identical. The first half has a slight different language. Similarly, here too, the first half has a slight difference. Just to mention it, so that you should not be embarrassed later on when you compare with Kathopanishad. You should not say, I was told they are identical, but there is some difference here. There is some slight difference in the coining of the words. In the Kathopanishad, the mantra goes like this: Najayate mriyate va vipaschit. In the Gita, it is Najayate mriyate va kadachit. Vipaschit is the conscious principle, the intelligence principle. Likewise, the second quarter in Kathopanishad is Nayam kutaschinna babhuva kaschit. Nayam kutaschinna babhuva. Here, Nayam bhutva abhavitavana bhuyaha. The meaning comes to the same. Ajo nityaha shashvatoyam purana. Let's see. This is very famous because in a very simple language, without bringing action and being acted upon and such things, it simply says this pure self is never born. This pure self, na jayate, is not born, na mriyate, does not die, and bhutva na abhavita. Having come into existence, it doesn't become absent. It doesn't vanish. That is a technical way of describing death. What is death after all? Someone is around, everybody says, yeah, yeah, I know him. Yeah, I met him just the other day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you are saying, do you know he is no more? This morning news. What? Oh, I met him just the other day. He was hale and hearty. He was in good spirits. What happened to him? We express shock. So somebody who has been around, and in the example, fit and fine, abhavita, bhutva abhavita, vana bhuyaha. And poetry permits when you have this na bhuyaha added there, it implies the other way around. Something which wasn't there at all comes into being. Somebody who was around ceases to be. That is a technical way of describing death. And somebody who wasn't around comes into being. That is janma. Birth is that. So prag abhava and uttara astitva is janma. Prag bhava or prag astitva. There is existence before and then there is non-existence. Today, in a graphical manner, you draw a horizontal line and mark 3 points, T1, T2 and T3. T1 to T2, somebody, something wasn't, but T2, it came up. T2 to T3 time period, it existed. So T2 is the point of birth, whereas if T1 to T2, it existed, and T2 to T3 time period, it did not exist, then T2 is the point of death. Existence to non-existence is death. Non-existence to existence is birth. They are all attached to word na. No such thing happens to the pure self. Wow. Day in and day out, you and I suffer from various kinds of insecurity. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. Election results will take, I believe, some more time, maybe a couple of days. And not only people in the United States on this day, but a lot of people all around the world are anxious. What will happen? Will Trump come? Will Biden come? Will Kamala Harris become the first woman vice president, first lady of Asian blood to be vice president, etc.? And some want it, some do not want it. There are camps on both sides, right? I need not get into a political commentary where I am not very good anyhow. So, so the wisdom of the Vedanta says all that has certain validity on a certain plane, but if you are anchored in Atma, then deep inside you, you look at everything as a play. Everything is an appearance. Once more, this should not make anybody irresponsible. I gave the example a while ago that somebody asks for a glass of water and you say, who am I to give water to anybody? I am an akarta. Who am I to give? Who am I to receive? Gita says, nothing applies to me. That would be such insensitive behavior. You'll have to give water at times, and at other times, if somebody is pretending and playing some pranks on you, you may jolly well say to him, get lost. You won't get one drop of water here. Stop playing the games with me. If that person is simply, wasting your time. So, when to do what is a different domain. And let me tell you, that domain of what is to be done, what is not to be done, is well informed by the highest self knowledge. In the highest self knowledge, you are anchored in a certain unshakable security. Then it will not make you insensitive. On the contrary, it empowers you to deal with situations in the best possible manner. For inside you, if you are shaky, if you are nervous, if you are agitated, then that agitation will make your perception also much disturbed. To have clear perception, you need to be anchored in something very strong. Elsewhere, they may not talk about self knowledge, but they say if you are anchored in love, if you are anchored in true goodness. So, a number of human values, I mentioned love and goodness, actually come very close to this Atmajnana, impartiality, equal mindedness, and so on. When they asked Sri Ramana Maharshi, how do we know somebody is enlightened? He said, if you examine that person closely and long enough, and if you find that that person is equal to all, rich or poor, good looking or otherwise, famous or common man, if a person looks at them equally, is available to all, and for some reason when he is busy, whoever comes, most famous man comes and wants his time, he says, sorry, I cannot see you now, and so on. No fear at all. Saints exhibit tremendous fearlessness. It is said Alexander the aggressor, raised his sword and threatened a saint in some part of India that I'll kill you if you refuse to come with me and live in my capital city. That person said, go ahead. Why did you stop? If you need to kill me, kill. Alexander was surprised, shocked. And then that saint, I believe, said, I will also see the body breaking into pieces, just as you will see if you strike with that sword. I am the Sakshi, I am the witness. Some Vedanta he spoke, it seems. So, This is not to be mixed up with transaction. On the contrary, all our transactions, our responses to various challenges will have an extra glow of nobility, a golden glow of virtue will come into our vyavahara, our transactions, if we are anchored in spiritual wisdom. Therefore, spirituality and human values support each other. More rich you are truly 24 by 7, not just in front of others, in your privacy also, you are anchored in right values of pure mind, pure thoughts, and cleanliness, honesty, etc. Whether somebody is watching or not, then that is called true morality. If you are so, then all this Vedanta will come to you much more easily. Human values facilitate spiritual awakening, and in spiritual awakening, the so called human values come to you most naturally. Like corollary follows a theorem. So, najayate mriyate va kadachit. Never does somebody come into being, that is, there is no birth. Never does somebody die. And ajaha, third line, unborn, nityaha, eternal, shashwataha, everlasting. Two Sanskrit words, I managed to give two English words. As it came up before, here also the question may come, where is the need to use two words saying the same thing? Is it not punarukti dosha? And like it was explained before, not exactly. The two words dismiss two kinds of change. We'll come to that. Puranaha. Puranaha on one hand means ancient, but there is another meaning to Purana, which is Pura api Nava. Though ancient, though very old, it is always new, ever new. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Even as the body is killed or injured, hanyate can mean beaten also. Yes. A man takes a stick and beats another man or an animal. That is also handatu. Bidalaha hanyate. A cat is beaten by an immature boy who is playing around. So, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. You might notice that here, perhaps for the first time in the no no, in the for beginning of second chapter also there were two or three verses in uh, Trishtup. So this is also Trishtup. That is, in each quarter you have 11 syllables. Otherwise, overwhelming majority, more than 600 out of 700 verses in the Gita are all in the meter called Anushtup. It is the simplest. Only 8 syllables in each quarter, but more than that, the rules about how those 8 syllables ought to be also are simple. Typically, the fifth syllable has to be short or what we call lagu. And Trishtup not only has 11 syllables, but there is a way of measuring the weight of each syllable. Na, ja is guru. Ya is again lagu. Te is guru. So lagu, guru, mriya. Two lagus, one after another. So you have, that is called Chanda Shastra. Chanda Shastra, prosody, the science of meters. Poems are written in different meters. This is in Trishtup Mantra. Adi Shankara explains every word And rather than going into full details, for now, let me tell you, he brings forth the observation that this shloka actually dismisses what are called six possible modifications for anybody or anything. Shad Vikara. That's how he introduced the shloka. The previous shloka, 19, said a few things. He said it boils down to Atma being avikriya, avikara, nirvikara, and that avikriyatva, not being subject to modifications, is elaborated here. So we'll just mention what those six vikaras are. In some elementary texts, such as Tattva Bodha, they are mentioned. Tattva Bodha has this paragraph: Asti jayate vardate viparinamate apakshiyate vinashyati iti shad vikara. There, the word asti is a little tricky. To be is not a vikara. So we hasten to explain. Asti there has to be taken as to be in some limited form. To be like a pot, to be a cot, to be a flower. All of them have limitations. Jayate, second one, to be born. Vardhate, to grow. Viparinamate, while overall mass could be the same, if something changes its shape. Vardhate is adding, increasing in mass. Asti jayate vardhate, viparinamate, while either the mass remains the same but volume may change or shape may change, or volume remains the same but the mass increases. That kind of changes are brought under viparinama. Apakshiyate is literally going down, getting weaker, losing mass, and so on. And vinashyati, finally, something dies. These are called Shad Vikaras, the pure self. Let me remind you once more. We have a sense of I am this body, I am this personality. We see ourselves in a mirror and say, okay, not bad, I look all right today, or otherwise, this personality is one level of the self. This is also Atma. When we say have Atma Bala, Atma Vishwasa, it's a very general sense of our existence. So this bodily existence also is Atma. Then beneath the body, and even when the body dies, moving over to the next life and so on, is the Jivatma, and that is Sansari Atma. The present discussion, where any modification is utterly dismissed, is not about Samsari Atma. It's the deepest, the ultimate truth which can be realized by you and me. That is where the Upanishads give a clarion call. Iha ched avedit ata satyamasti. Right here, in this life, if you get to know your true nature, the ultimate true nature, then your life is truly meaningful. Satyamasti. Nachediha avedit. If you miss out in this birth also, how sad. Mahati vinashti is a mantra in the Kenopanishad. So the purest self can be realized. We believe that someone like Sri Ramana Maharshi, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, and some more were enlightened. They, in fact, constantly, every moment, they knew that they neither have birth or death, nor have reincarnation. They are full stop. There's no description. That is the ultimate Atmajnana. we will see how Adi Shankara explains the 6 vikaras one by one and shows which part of this shloka stands for a particular vikara modification and its dismissal in the next class. As we announced, the Upanishad class on Friday in US, Europe, etc., as before, but in India, instead of 8 p.m., it will be rather 8:30 p.m. In India, it's going to be 9:30 p.m., 1 hour later, in order that the daylight saving ending in the Western Hemisphere is taken into account. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.